J. Julio Vela here with another Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association presents Reasonable Doubt with, quite frankly, two amazing special individuals who have volunteered their time today. Our new president-elect, Mark Thiessen. Mark, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, JV. Everybody.
Here with another Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association presents Reasonable Doubt. Mark, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Say hello.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me, JV. Good to see y'all.
Judge, also, we have an incredible special guest, Judge Brian Warren. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Feeling a little underdressed now that you have a suit and tie on. But
yeah,
doing great.
Well, like I said, I wasn't able to go home. We had a board meeting. The president's having a business and new agendas and new things coming. So I didn't have enough time to go home. Also,
are you wearing pants, JV?
No, I'm not wearing pants, Mark. You're not supposed to say anything, man. I told.
It's okay. Mark's shirt doesn't have any buttons, so we're all
good. and host Justin Harris, producer director. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. This is like my 5th show. I'm not wearing pants.
Well, it was always awkward in the studio when you showed up with no pants. I would ask you questions, and then instead of like putting pants on, you grew a mustache. So
starting off the show right.
Judge, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
I'm very good. I couldn't imagine a couple years ago you're a defense attorney, top of the field. You decide to put in, and you're a judge, and you get handed a pandemic. How are you holding up?
I don't know if you've been handed it, but yes.
How are you holding up?
What we're doing is a lot easier than what you all are doing. You guys are the ones on the front line. You're there with clients in jail. You're going to jail. You're visiting people. You're dealing with kind of the unknown, where we're just trying to get through and just kind of service the defense bar and the prosecution.
Hey, Judge, I think you covered up your microphone.
Can't hear.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yeah, there we go.
No, all I was saying is that, you guys are the ones on the front line. You guys are the ones who are you're the ones dealing with all the difficulties. We're not really doing anything. We're 8 feet away from anybody at any given time because where we're at on the bench. You guys are the ones going to jail. You're dealing with clients who don't know what's going on and dealing with all the, who knows when you're going to show up. Different courts are doing different things. It's a little tough. Like, what we're doing is kind of easy in comparison. Like, we're not dealing with it the way you guys are because you're on the front line. Also, that's my 18-month-old saying hello.
Yeah, Judge, I disagree, man. You guys are holding it down. You guys are coming back from Harvey. You and good leadership are allowing the courts to progress. But I will say that as much as I love you, Judge, there's nobody who has a bigger crown right now than Mark Thiessen. Mark, as the head of one of the largest criminal defense bars in the country, how are you doing first day as Mr. President?
Dude, just jumping right in the deep end, right? Like, I already had to talk to the Chronicle today. I had a board today. I'm ready for it. I've been on the board for probably about 7 years and was president-elect last year and then president today. So, it's imagined it to go. I thought it was gonna be a nice, easy 50th year with HCCLA, but let's jump on in the deep end,
I will say one of the things that influenced me to vote for you was, I'm not kidding, that it was going to be 50th anniversary. I was expecting gold, elephants, flying carpets, anything we can imagine at the banquet. And I said, you know what? Mark's all right. We can go ahead and do this. Mark, it kind of sucks, man. You don't get to hold the banquet. You don't get to. We have newly elected board members that we'll mention their names again and bring them in. Hopefully, they're going to be on Reasonable Doubt. But Mark, you inherited a thing, didn't you?
Yeah, it is what it is. We're gonna have the banquet in time, And honestly, I'm gonna tell you, the banquet's a whole lot of fun. Unless you're like on exec, unless you're president, you got to get up and make a speech. You ain't drinking like everybody else, like the banquet's been a lot of fun the past 7 years, but when you're president, you got to get up and do all these things. Nah, man, I'm going to take it on point. Like everything I've done, I do it serious. And so I'm one of the most fun loving guys, and I'm rowdy, but at the same time, when I put my mind to it, I'm going to do it right. So I'm going to do it right this year.
Well, you're one of the best attorneys in town. You have the credibility and support. Justin, what's going on, brother?
Not much. It's interesting that you mentioned the banquet. This is when the banquet was supposed to be, is right now.
Yeah.
It's the first time in however many years we've been having the banquet that there is a reasonable doubt on the second Thursday of May. We haven't done this ever.
Let me give a shout out to the Houston Media Source we are actually, I think we're still the only show that's being produced on live. Mark Ferrell in the booth. It's an amazing kind of day and event that we're able to make this step forward, and thank you. And Justin, as a producer and director of the show, thank you for putting this thing together.
No, JV, all credit to you and Mark. Seriously, the studio and Mark putting his time into the engineering booth and you spearheading this. Thank y'all both. And yeah, you're exactly right. Houston Media Source has done great by HCCLA and by the city of Houston, and they're a valued asset to the city.
Speaking of Mark, we got a judge on the show. Let's talk to him, man.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Judge, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the things that we may not realize, or some of the viewers may not realize, that have been affected? Like, we've talked a lot of off screen about juries, and then last week we started talking about grand juries, which is something that I hadn't even thought about. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what's been going on with grand juries? I think they convene over longer periods of time, and they're just determining probable cause for the filing of charges on felony cases.
Yeah, generally speaking, on felony, every single felony has to be presented to a grand jury unless it's obviously waived. Grand juries meet for a 3-month term, starting the first grand jury that met in 2020 started their term in February, which is my grand jury, Chris Morton's grand jury, Hillary Younger's grand jury, and I forget who else is meeting. So far, my grand jury and Chris Martin's grand jury are the only 2 grand juries still meeting, and we haven't been able to pull grand juries to meet. And so it's one of these things where defendants obviously their cases can't be set for trial until a grand jury says there's probable cause, obviously. So we need those grand juries meeting all the time to investigate cases, true bill the ones that need to be true billed, and no bill the ones that need to be done and that need to be not true billed. But our grand juries, Chris and I's grand jury, are continuing to meet, and they're going to meet until a new grand jury will hopefully be sworn in for what would be the August term, and then meet for 3 months in August.
What kind of changes, if any, did y'all have to implement for the grand jurors themselves? How many people were we talking about on a grand jury?
We picked. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did you have to implement kind of changes?
Well, we've extended our grand jury, which is really unusual. It's a huge commitment on people's time to come down. They come down twice a week. They meet all morning, 2 days a week. It's a huge commitment for people. Our 2 grand juries, I've spoken to mine extensively through this whole crisis, and they've volunteered to stay and kind of donated their extra time to come down here. And they do put themselves in harm's way a little bit. I mean, they do have people coming in. They do have witnesses coming in, prosecutors coming in, and they are hearing from multiple people. They're meeting in the basement of the old or the appellate courthouse of 1910. So it's not exactly social distancing. It's not, they're sitting as far apart as they can, but there are still, 12 to 16 people on any given day sitting in a room, hearing probable cause, hearing presentations on cases, having witnesses come in and come out. And so they've been really, really good about it. And, it's one of the great things about Houston is seeing people in a crisis come together and donate their time and really come together as a city. It makes me proud I live here. We saw this with Harvey and people coming up and helping their neighbors. And I mean, it's one of the what makes this city so special is, there's so many people come here from other places, but make this their home. And then in crisis, we all pull together for each other. And then it's really neat what my grand jury's done. I don't want to take any credit for it because I haven't done anything. Like they're the ones. It's just this truly special group of individuals who's done this for our city and for our criminal justice center. Our community.
That's great. Yeah, you're right. Stepping up.
Mark, say something, Mark. You've got the questions. Thiessen.
Me?
Yeah, man.
Well, Mark is Houston Media Source is on there also, so I'm getting confused with the marks.
We call it Thiessen.
No, I'm actually just learning myself. I didn't think they were actually going to go down there. I thought maybe they'd be doing Zoom meetings, but then how's a prosecutor going to go during, you know, it all being Zoom. So I'm glad to hear that they're doing what they can, going down there. I mean, I applaud it. I mean, as Judge was, touching on, like, Houston's are resilient and we're being creative, finding a way. We have to keep this justice system moving. And I mean, it's just as important that we take care of the bad guys, but we need to get the people that were wrongfully charged out of there as well. And that's important. So I'm glad that we've been creative and found a way. And I applaud all those grand juries or all those grand jurors who are actually risking, I mean, they're all walks of life, all ages, could be potentially risking their lives and going down there and actually serving their community. So I applaud them for doing that. And I appreciate the judges being creative, the city being open to find new places, the DAs going down and presenting. So I really appreciate that.
And I'm not sure what the law is about whether or not we can, the governor's order, not talking about the governor's order directly, but whether or not witnesses can appear before the grand jury via Zoom or prosecutors can. I'm not 100% confident to say anything about what the law would be on that. Whether or not a prosecutor has to appear on person. It's probably better that they do go down there than they don't. And there's only a limited number of prosecutors who I assume are being safe, but it's definitely a neat thing that they're all doing this.
Well, and I was in Judge Warren's court. Was it this week he did that PSI?
Oh,
Monday.
Yeah.
Monday. And I was in the back and we were running. It was like 10:30 in the morning. He was still running a PSI and Aaron and Gary were in there and the prosecutors were in there and like judges still conducting business and like running PSI. So Judge Warren's actually one of the few guys that's getting things done, at a safe distance, working with what we can, and things are moving. And, because otherwise if we can't sit here for 3 months all clogged up. It's not workable the way it is right now. Like I was sitting in the back of those hallways being like, how are we going to do this with only 10 people in the hall? This is crazy.
Right.
Well,
so that's
creative and doing
that's a question that I have. Speaking about the hallways, the bailiffs are very, very diligent, we can say, about keeping the courtrooms to 10 people only. I've been kicked out of more courtrooms in the last few weeks than I've ever been before, just being number 11. But what about the hallways? And the other question I have is, in the elevators that we have access to, only 2 people are allowed in at a time. What about the elevator that the inmates use? Are they only doing 2 at a time? Because that would mean that there's a guard in there, and that would just be 1 inmate at a time with that guard. So how are they doing all that? No?
I'm not 100% sure. We've had a little snafu with the sheriff this week. Little miscommunication about when people are in quarantine and bring people up. And hopefully we've resolved that. So I'm not really 100% sure. And as you all know, if you ever represent somebody who's in custody, they get up there at 6 o'clock in the morning. So usually, I'm never late. I'm kind of anal about the old Godwin, the Sim Lake model of you don't take the bench at 9:01, you don't take it at 8:59. And like I try to take it at 9 o'clock every morning. I'm never late, but they're there hours before I am. So I'm not really 100% sure.
Is that a concern that that is going to have to be addressed with the court administration and the building administration?
Well, that's within the purview of the sheriff. I mean, the sheriff decides all that. So we can't tell them. Once we start telling the sheriff how to transport inmates, we then become liable as judges. And so that's something we obviously want to avoid. And, and frankly, maybe Josh Hill is probably appropriate. Like he probably could handle an inmate revolt, but the rest of us probably couldn't. If Josh is saying, like, look, this is the safe way, then that's fine. But the rest of us probably not.
Have you seen how high he gets on the bike? Did you see the bike?
Josh is an amazing athlete. Like he really is. And, and Mark knows him from doing the MMA stuff as well. Just an amazing athlete. Like he may be 5'8", but
fights. He used to be a professional skateboarder. The guy can jump like JJ Watt style. Like he's a beast, man. And I outweigh him by like 40 pounds. I can't touch him. He is a beast.
Well, he's also solid muscle. Like there's not an inch of fat on that guy. He is just one. He's like built like a fire hydrant, solid muscle.
Hey, so I was going to talk a little bit briefly because you brought it up, Judge, on what happened this week in the courts. Because I talked to Judge Lacayo, what happened. I talked to defense attorney. So what happened is, and I'm working with TCLA COVID committee as well right now. So what happened is Harris County office brings this guy to court. Brian's on Zoom with the guy, and the guy goes, well, yeah, I also tested positive. And Brian's like, okay, but you don't know.
Not me, Brian.
Yeah, no. Brian Roberts, the defense attorney. And he's like, I don't know if this guy's telling the truth or not. He goes, but in abundance of caution, I got to tell the judge. And judge is like, oh my God, he's tested positive. We'll come to find out. And here's the issue. He tested 14 days before.
HCCLA COVID committee as well right now. So what happened is, Harris County.
JV.
No, it wasn't me. No.
Oh, no, it was just feedback. All right. So they brought him out. Well, they didn't bring him out. He tested positive 14 days before. He was asymptomatic, not showing any symptoms, but they hadn't actually shown that he was negative, right? So everybody's like, dude, you can't bring in a guy we don't know is negative. And so now what TCDLA is going to Harris County Sheriff's Office. We need to know who you've brought up in the last 2 weeks, because that's potentially our window, 2 to 3 weeks, who was positive in the past that you brought up that we didn't know about, so we can alert everybody in that court. Here's the problem, though. By the time the Harris County, and first HIPAA, because we can't know who the inmate was, right? And so we're not asking who the inmate was. Just tell us what courts they came into, but by the time they get through all of that paperwork and get us to the courts and everything, it's going to be past 14 days. So, and then it'll be moot. So we can't do a PIA request. We got to go straight to the sheriff and be like, hey, we need somebody on this in the next couple of days. So I was talking to Carrie Donica, that's president of TCDLA, Nicole DeBoard, Clay Stebbins on that, David Ryan's on that. And we're going to draft like basically a short request on behalf of TCDLA and HCCLA to the sheriff saying, hey, get us this information, get it to us in the next couple of days. Because if he waits another week, the longer he waits, it's moot. Because right now we've told him, I think Judge Glass spoke out, Judge Ritchie has signed an order, and maybe Judge Warren can tell us about this. The judges are slowly going, hey, in my court, you're not allowed to bring anybody up that's ever tested positive. I don't care how long the quarantine was. I need to know that they're negative. And so what we're hoping, and I'm glad Judge Warren's on here, we can get a consensus between all the felony judges, all the judges, and say, hey, this is a standing order for all courts, but I don't know. What do you want, Judge Warren?
My understanding is, this is my 18-month-old who's coming in, so he'll speak up on this issue as well. My understanding is Judge Ritchie's order applies to all of us. It applies to all the district courts. I know it's
because it said in his court, he said in my court. So, and Judge Ritchie is the head of all the felony courts. So I'm like, Judge Ritchie, will you write one for all of felony? And then I guess it'd be Daryl Jordan who needs to write it for all of misdemeanor.
Yeah, and we're not, and that's Judge Ritchie. So I'm gonna come outside, y'all. So sorry about that. It's bedtime for our 18-month-old. But and Daryl Jordan's the admin judge for for a misdemeanor, and they certainly have a lot less felonies than we do, or a lot less jail pleas than we do. They obviously have no felonies. But with Judge Ritchie, my understanding from Judge Ritchie's order is that it applies to everyone. So it applies to all of the district courts.
Okay.
And so it is my understanding from this point on, they will not be bringing up anyone who's tested positive for COVID-19 until they've tested negative. But I'm kind of relying on Judge Ritchie a little bit on that.
Right. And so then
Judge Ritchie's been a badass through this time. I'm telling you, he's doing some things.
I know he's the smart, like I kind of joke that he's the smartest of all of them. Like he's really good. He's really smart. He sees, he's an old appellate lawyer. And I don't mean old appellate lawyer, so I should take that back, but he was an appellate lawyer for many years. He has a lot of experience. And, when you do appellate work, like your brain works a little differently. Like when you're a trial lawyer, like I think we all are, your brain you react really quickly, right? Like you need to, within 10 seconds or even that, like half a second, you have to decide whatever that witness said, whatever the judge said, does it hurt me? Does it help me? Or do I need to ignore it? And so your brain has to be rapid fire like that. He's an appellate lawyer where he sees the matrix when we're just seeing like the little dots in front of us, And so I think he's been really great at his job. I thank him so much for everything he's done, especially it's his last term. Rather than having senioritis, like he's the one in meetings all the time and working around the clock, and worked himself into a little seizure there too. Like he's really been an amazing asset for all of us at this time.
And is he the mouthpiece because he's a senior? He's a senior judge. He's been there before. Why?
I'm sorry, JB. I apologize. He's our administrative judge, so he speaks for the Board of Criminal Judges. It's an elected position, and after Maria Jackson had it, and then when she retired, stepped down, then he took over as, after a vote of the district court judges, he took over, and I think he was unopposed in it. It was a unanimous selection.
I heard a rumor that bond virtual pleas are coming, and that the whole virtual plea process will be available to individuals who aren't gonna get out that day. In other words, could be, you know, they could be sentenced to CC, or they could be sentenced to state jail, or they could be sentenced to whatever they want. But typically our understanding was that the virtual plea would be for individuals who plea out and would be getting out. But now I understand that we're close to getting probation pleas, bond pleas, and also inmates, individuals who are in custody, being able to do a virtual plea who might otherwise be quarantined, taking that plea. What's the word on that?
Dan here.
There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. The problem with bond pleas is that we need eventually to get their fingerprints on a judgment, or the court does. And I don't know how we would do that. And I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, certainly I'm all for, you know, virtual appearances. I'm all for any of that that's going to help in this and help any defense attorney. I'm all for people Zooming in. I'm surprised when people show up to court. But,
Well,
you know,
how can I get my push-ups done in court if nobody sees it?
All right,
exactly. You're not working out if you don't tag yourself on Facebook.
I'll tell you honestly why I've been going to court, because I can get it done faster when I go to court, because I'll sit on that Zoom for like 2.5 hours and I'm only in one court on that Zoom. I need multiple phones and multiple logins. Because, and honestly, I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going down there because I can get it done faster, you know. But now that they've been restricting people to only 10 people a court, and you got, you know, those SWAT guys we always occasionally see walking in that are with
Ninja Turtles.
They're walking around taking pictures and seeing who's in there, and I'm like, man, this is serious.
Those dudes are picking up people, man.
Well, it's hard as a judge. You sit there and you know, you have people there, and so you balance the people who are physically present versus the people on Zoom, and you're looking in two different directions. People will pop in and out of Zoom, and so maybe Mark shows up, and then it's like if you come to a court, it's like, well, Mark was here, Mark left. All right, well, I'll go on the next person, but then Mark pops back in. Like he may have gotten disconnected. It's a little bit. It's like, to try to be fair to everybody, it's really hard to juggle everybody, and I try to be real respectful of everybody's time, because Mark's right. You have to be in multiple places, and that's kind of tough.
Oh, and
multiple phone calls, rather.
I waited in your back hallway for an hour. Just, you know, I was like, it's not efficient. Like it's hardcore everywhere. Zoom was like 2.5 hours. In the back is an hour. I'm like, how is it going to happen? You know, like the resets we can probably do, just reset them, you know, encourage the attorneys to talk to a DA, work out the case. But then when you need like bond conditions, violating bond, motions to adjudicate, hearings like PSI, we got to come into court. And it's like, man, we got to figure out.
You're right, Mark. I mean, you and I were both there on Monday behind the 209.
In my court, yeah.
5 minutes to an hour. But we were both there not just to do a reset. You know, you were there to get a bond set or to get bond conditions. My client was there for bond violation issues, you know, and they were both relatively serious accusations. So, you know, it's just everything's slowed down. I just think it's kind of, there's this irony when the bailiffs are in the courtroom making us social distance, keeping 10 people only, but what they're creating is this bottleneck right outside the courtrooms of people who are not social distancing, and who are all clamoring to get into the courtroom next, you know. And so it ends up defeating the purpose when one of us comes in there and joins the other 9 in the courtroom.
I will approach with.
I don't have a solution.
I'll be like, and I'm with Mark. I go to the court and I'm just like, hey, what's up? How you doing? I got something I got to go on. That took.
I wear a mask and I carry hand sanitizer in my pocket, but
I was. You know what? I was in court for 4 hours. That's why I'm in this suit. Well, because
I've been to court at all since this happened.
There's Katie Ferrell.
You're a newborn. You're smart. The rest of us are idiots.
Yeah, so I haven't gone once. Courts have been really receptive to using email, Zoom, whatever I need, so I don't have to be there. I tell them my client's not going to be there. I fall on the sword. So far, I haven't had an issue with it. I think the only way we just need to streamline what needs to be in court. I don't think bond conditions, for the most part, ever need to be in court for that. You can take care of, send me the bond conditions, I go over with my client, have them sign it, send it back to you. So
I'll
the
say
more
that
we
Judge
can
Andrews-
streamline things, the more we can keep that bottleneck from happening. And
Judge-
more attorneys don't need to be going for resets. If I see one more attorney post a freaking selfie on Facebook as if they're like riding the defense high horse, like stop with the reset. That's
Hard truth, Katie Ferrell.
Okay.
crashing
Okay,
the damn party.
Okay, so check this out. Okay, fine, fair enough. I'll do my selfie. I'm going to court. My client's not there. Okay, he's not because he shouldn't be there. This is misdemeanor land. Okay, and judge says, fine, it's on you. You tell your client he has to, and pretrial services is in court too. You tell your client needs to go to pretrial services, get this and that. If not, I'm gonna put that individual back on the docket next Wednesday. You know, obviously I have my client's contact number and I have my client's information. So I text him and the idea is that they go based on officer of the court, they go and get their conditions. While that works with some, however, we do know that there's individuals who have extenuating circumstances, who are not going to be able to get that, who might be homeless or mentally ill, or might be in a position where they're not able to communicate effectively.
Or have someone like Katie who has a newborn that she can't leave.
Right. I was talking about mental illness, but that's fine too.
Same thing, honestly.
They're pretty close. Is it having an 18-month-old?
Well, try having
All
four.
together.
No, I don't want a soccer team. I don't want a soccer team, JV.
I'm kidding. No, okay, Ferrell's one of the best lawyers in town. Congratulations on being on the board of the year. Here we go. But what I'm saying is that it's a fine line. I don't know if I could do the same things for everyone. And
I agree. I think that's a good point. I think we have to, as defense attorneys, look at our clients and realize, what client do I know that I can contact and send them there and they'll be able to take care of it. And of course, you do appointed work. I think you see this more often in appointed work. You have clients that there's just no way it can happen. But they're also usually the client who's not going to show up to court anyway. So there's that.
I really only go down there when I'm required to by a court or on a day when I'm getting appointments, because I can't build a rapport with somebody if I don't talk to them. You know, I don't want the court to give me their phone number and then they don't trust me because they know I'm only calling them through the court. So I go down there to meet
Trust you because of the mustache, but that's.
Well,
That's fire.
no one knows it's there. No one knows it's there because of my mask.
Yeah, Katie is on point tonight.
Seriously, a little red
Hey,
wine
Judge.
and Mama's on fire.
Judge, not to move on, but I wanted to ask you, I've heard grumblings that we might be picking up jury trials in either George R. Brown or the, what do you call it? The Houston
NRG.
NRG.
All right. So when this COVID thing hit, we canceled juries. There's only one trial that's still going on, remarkably enough, and it's the Arkham trial.
Right.
And so those jurors want to get back to work. So the biggest problem with getting those 13 people to and from court, obviously, is that if we socially distance them on our elevators, that's slightly an issue. We can't socially distance in a courtroom. There's significant, I don't even know how many defense attorneys are on it, but a lot. I think 10 at least.
Wow.
Between co-counsel and whatnot. So the plan is we're meeting with George R. Brown next week, and we're going to try to continue that trial there. We're going to see how that goes. That's going to be kind of our test case, and we're talking about resuming that in July.
Two
That particular
questions.
trial.
The one, is it the same jury? Two,
Yes.
Wouldn't the defense object to some sort of mistrial, or would there be an inquiry as to whether or not they've disobeyed any of your orders? And
No way.
three,
No way. The defense.
isn't it still Judge? I believe it's
Linda Hill.
It's Judge Hill.
that's trying that.
JV, if you're a defense attorney on this trial in the middle of a natural disaster, this is exactly what you want. You want that same jury, right?
Well, I heard that. I heard that's
you
the
want to
same
go to
re-
argue? Look at
I'll
the
tell you after the
No
verdict.
comment.
I'll tell you after the verdict.
Look, I
Yeah,
heard that's why they ended up going with outside counsel to try the case, but that's just what I'm saying. That's just a rumor.
And that's up. The defense can make that motion. I mean, it'd be up for Judge Hill to do it. I mean, if they like their jury, and I kind of think that they do. From the conversations I've had with them, if they like their jury, like even if you have this weird break, which may be prejudicial, if you pick a really good jury, and sometimes that's half the battle, as you all know, it's those 12 people that get in the box. Like you can have 12 people that are just never going to buy what the state's selling. Doesn't matter how good of a job they've done. You've won before you've picked a jury. I told that and Mark tried a case in my court, and it was a punishment case on intox.
Oh, I saw that, and we had to break a couple times. I saw it.
Yeah, you know what the deal was? It's just like and I told my court reporter, after jury selection, I was like, Mark's gonna win. Mark picked the right jury. And you can just tell sometimes. And probably when Mark was sitting there and stressing, where I'm not stressing, I'm just watching good lawyers be good lawyers. And that's the best part about being a judge. You're just watching good lawyers be excellent at what they do. And it's so rewarding. But like, I just knew he picked this great jury. As like, I just knowing nothing about the case, not being predisposed either way, like having no idea what happened. Like, I know Mark picked this great defense, perfect jury to give this guy probation. And that's what they did. I mean, Mark won on that case because of jury selection, because he had a good group of people to pull from or to pick that 12 from. And then he did a great job on jury selection. And
Mark,
so sometimes that's everything. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Mark, I love you. And I saw your entire close, and I saw the entire back and forth between Judge and you. I thought you were smoked.
Thanks, guys.
I'm just saying. No, you did a phenomenal close. Okay, huge close. Amazing. Judge is spot on. The only reason that in a case of that nature, where one could get probation, is the jury, that you had to have planted those seeds at the beginning. Because if I come in on the end and I'm just hearing these things about somebody breaking an ankle and going the wrong way and getting some other things out in other counties, and the dude gets probation,
Well,
what?
Back to what we were talking about, I think that the Arkema defense lawyers haven't moved for a mistrial because I think they like that jury.
Yeah.
I'm saying, dude, that was incredible.
Just put them back in the hole. Let's do it in a park. I'll put them all 6 feet away in a park. Just give me a verdict.
I swear to God, if I hear another state object to some slides that I presented in voir dire, I am going to go live it. I'm going to be like, Mark did it. I will say though, Judge, that must have been early on, somewhat early on. I mean, you probably on the bench, probably 6 months at that point.
Oh, more. It was longer than that. It was. When did we try that, Mark?
Because he was getting in December, so it was July. He went because
last summer, right?
He got 120 days as a condition. He got out just at Christmas.
Like 7 months, and I'm seeing two heavyweights. Because Judge, you're a judge now, but you were top of the game on the defense side. Mark's been top of the game since I've been around. It's what it is, and it was interesting seeing how you were going to take the hat off of a defense attorney and a contemporary, a former prosecutor, advocate to the bench. And I will say, Mark challenged the hell out of you. He did, man. You took him out twice. It was 2 times. You took him out. Yeah. And I was
I got yelled at a lot in there, but
yeah, you did. Well, you should have.
I know. I should have. Yeah.
Judge was like, "Don't you dare say this," and Mark was like, "I'm saying it."
All right.
I forgot about that.
You did. Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that was the first time I saw you, Judge, as like doing the thing. And that was cool. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't yell at you. I had a calm conversation with you, and told you that you're using your time during closing for us to have a daddy talk.
That's what I'm saying. And you're not getting this time back, Mr. Thiessen. The dude had like 3 minutes left, and I left, and I said, God, well, if Mark can't get a guy probation, then maybe I can't either. So, but no, the guy comes back with probation. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was getting. I would have bet money he was getting probation. I mean, he did a wonderful job, and you know what? And sometimes, like, when you handle serious cases like that, and you get to know your clients and you care about them. You should, like their lives are entrusted to you. Like if you're not passionate and if you're not like, if that passion is not boiling over in your closing argument, like you're not doing a good job. Right. Like, but when the state objects and they say you've gone too far, and I agree with them, it's my job to bring you back. But the fact that you're being passionate and fighting for your client is not a bad thing. It just means you care. And this is what the system should be, right? Like you should have somebody who's like, and that's what I want if my loved one was in trial, is a defense attorney who passionately cared about it, as opposed to who's like, I don't know what my tea time is, or I wonder when I can go out drinking with the boys tonight. Like you want a guy who's going to really, or a gal. I'm just thinking of Mark, so I don't mean to be sexist at all, but Mark and Tally tried that case and they were both brilliant. And Mark really, really cared about the outcome of that case, and it showed. And I think the jury knew that as well.
A couple of years ago, I saw Mark in the elevator and he was on his big string, and I said, I got a new slogan for you, brother. And it's like, dead body, call Mark Thiessen.
No.
You don't want those cases.
No.
Hey, look, okay. Let me address two things that are on our feed. Number one,
you might get weird phone calls if it's just dead body, call Mark. Like
Mr. White from Pulp Fiction.
Look, let me address two things that are on our Facebook feed. Hey, everybody who's watching, thank you so much. We have a lot of people watching currently. The first one is, I think it relates to Zoom. Some of them, and there is a disconnect. Jackie Carpenter talks about, and I agree with that, when we're faced with an MAJ or some things that we're going to need some back-end paperwork, where if you're in the courtroom, you can just go say, hey, CLO, give me the file. Where's it at? Let me look through it. If you're on Zoom, you can't do that, but you're faced with court. What are some, I'd imagine that it's a similar challenge, maybe with His Honor, but maybe not, because you guys are in the court. How are we making sure the defense attorneys have all their information they need?
I haven't had a Zoom MAJ yet with a defense attorney. The MAJs I've had have been very, very few. The defense attorneys have chosen to appear, but I'm not averse to any solution. So if Jackie Carpenter had an MAJ in my court and we were set, and she needed something from my CLO, I would have my CLO email it immediately to Jackie so that she would have it in front of her, or whatever we can do. I don't know if there's any real good solution other than the courts need to bend over backwards to make sure everybody has a fair hearing, and that means giving defense attorneys everything. Like they need to have. Oh, good.
The other on the list on the chats are Corey Roth. I tagged him. I tried to tag him. Corey, if you're watching, he generally watches. Say something. So he was in his individual. RFP, you're right, and supposedly he was given a PR bond, but the clerk's office may or may not have allowed him to sign a MOEP, or he didn't have ability to have a MOEP, or it's the sheriff's office fault, or it's everybody's fault. Is that an issue? Is that something that we're seeing? Because it's very concerning.
Can you tell more? Can someone give a little bit more of the backstory on that?
So the guy died. He was supposed to be let out, and he died.
Cut to the chase of the story. He should have been let out. There was some snafu. I'm not going to say who's to blame, but he died while in custody instead of being out because of a paperwork snafu.
And on a side note, look, convicted rapists and people with violent histories aren't getting let out all over the streets. It's not Gotham City. I'm just saying, because I have plenty of my individuals in custody. Just everybody thinks that everybody's getting let out, and they're not.
Over 8,000 people in jail right now.
Yeah.
So if you can judge some of those, if you can, I address those too. One, is this delay common? Because that's a big problem, or what are your thoughts on that? And two, we have the order that released some individuals, but not who have histories of violence. And what are your thoughts on those?
We're kind of addressing it internally right now amongst the judges, and we've had some conversations about it. Obviously, it's a horrible thing that this happened. I'm not sure how it happened. I'm not sure. Obviously, it sounds like a mistake happened. It wasn't in my court. I don't know much about it other than what you all know. You probably know better than I do. Certainly, I reached out to Corey. I've had a defendant who I walked in trial and was found not guilty, ended up getting murdered a couple of years later. So I understand, it's a horrible feeling, and Like, regardless of what someone's charged with, you do get, like, when you represent somebody and you fight for them, you care about them, and they're people in your lives. And so I do feel horrible bad for Corey. I'm sure Corey is kicking himself saying, had I known, I could have done something, or like, you're kicking yourself and it's not his fault. But I think going forward, we're kind of having these internal discussions about what can we do to make sure it's better documented about MOAP. So, because once a MOAP is signed at PC court, a lot of times it won't show up in the computer system. And so I'll ask, and I'm really lucky I have Tom, who's been a clerk for 30 years. He's like master clerk status, like Yoda status as far as clerks go. And so he can usually figure this stuff out, but like, it's nothing I can see. But we have a lot of those discussions like, all right, did he sign a MOAP? Do we need to do another one? And it's, when we're normally in court, it's not a big deal. It's the guy's there. We're going to let him go anyway. We just need to know if he needs to sign this piece of paper and be warned about it. So we're trying to address that internally about how we can better keep track of who's signed things and who's not. Because if JB's a defendant in my court and Justin's representing him.
First of all, I couldn't afford Justin.
I'd never represent you anyway, JB.
I said I couldn't afford you, man.
I got you. I would charge a friend discount.
All right. Well, anyway, so say he signs a MOAP, right? And so Justin comes in and I say, all right, Justin, you need me to set a bond. A bond has been set. All right, has he signed a MOAP? And Justin says, well, I don't see one, but JV's telling me he has. Well, JV's saying he signed one. I'm like, all right, well, you saying you signed one is not good enough for me. Like, I want to get one signed. Where, sometimes the DAs don't know. But what happens is JV signs that MOAP at PC court. Then it goes and gets imaged, and we don't have access to it. And so there's a little bit of delay where it kind of falls to the cracks. And that's something I think this has really brought a light to it, and we're going to try to address that. We're just not sure what the solution is, but there will be something.
I have two questions on that.
Yes,
or I guess one question, and then is there a way to maybe just put, because I understand that the imaging process is going to take a minute, but they're doing so much updating with the computer system by adding virtual pleas and stuff. Is there just like a tick mark you could add somewhere that says, yep, it was done in PC court, and then it can be imaged later? Maybe that's a way to resolve the problem, for now. And
that's something like, as simple as that sounds, that's something a district clerk would have to do. Like, I can tell my magistrates, like,
let's get her on here. She'll be great.
Well, but like,
We can invite her.
Jen Gott is on duty tonight for the sake of argument, right?
Jen Gott now. Oh,
yeah, I don't know who's on duty. I don't really keep track of it.
Fair. I digress.
Whoever it is. Courtney comes in, does the
Judge, you're covering up your microphone.
Sorry, man. Can you hear me better?
Yep, that's good.
All right, I'm going to try to prop this up. So Courtney St. Julian does the MOAP on JB, does her magistrate paperwork. That then goes into the clerk's office, and that gets scanned. So it's not something our magistrates are failing to do or could do. What we need, maybe Katie's right, maybe it's something the district clerk has to do, where they need to make notations, digital notations, so that we all know. So it doesn't happen again. But we're real conscious about it, and we're trying to think of a solution.
Chris Daniel is on the live. Chris Daniel is watching. Chris Daniel, why don't you comment on something?
I'm not sure, like, on the clerk's office end, like what goes into changing that program? What goes into taking a box? Justin?
One way that I've seen this happen and clear this up in the past is when the DA goes into their system and makes a notation, MOAP entered court. I've had that happen in a handful of these types of situations when the defendant's there on their first court date, not necessarily during COVID, but previously. And everyone's just like, was a MOAP done at PC court? Was a MOAP done at the magistrate? Does anybody know? And then the only place we find it is, because it's often imaging, is in the DA's notes in their system. Whoever the PC DA was, they wrote in there MOAP entered at PC court.
Yeah, but that's something that I can't order. So I mean, there's things clearly fell through the cracks. I don't know enough about it to really have an opinion of why it happened, but we need to take steps so it doesn't happen again. And
Chris Daniel's commenting right here. Chris Daniel.
What does Chris have to say?
He's saying the QC process, which Chris, I don't know what the QC process is, but
quality control.
The QC quality control process has been reduced to self-check, so more errors occur. Data control. I interpret that as the people they're hiring aren't getting trained. Fair enough. He says, yep, but it's also a massive training issue. He also says it was already changed when it converted from gyms to JWeb. Damon Paris says a SH ton of work. Murray's chiming in. What's up, Murray? He says, I would like to know when Judge Warren stopped trying to look like Matt Damon in favor of looking like Jesse Pinkman in the final season of Breaking Bad. That's a whole episode.
Coming
Murray.
from the guy who looks like Walter White. Thank you.
He does look like Walter White. That's what he said.
Hey, I see that.
He's also living on in the middle of nowhere too.
So look, Chris Daniel, my friend, is putting the clerk's office on blast. Look at him. He's saying, but Katie is right. A tickler or a checkbox can be put in. The clerks check their own homework. No more oversit, cite, fair. So he's talking about like these people can't even check their own stuff. Chris, I would say a lot of the people that were in your office when you were in office are still there. I'm just saying, man, and they're good people, dude.
Yeah, maybe you guys can reach out to. Maybe not in this forum, but you can reach out. Mark, put something additional on your plate. But maybe y'all can reach out to the district clerk's office and say, like, look, this had a clerk done this guy probably would have been released. And so because of that, we're asking you in the future for this to have done. And there's no saying, like, I mean, the guy apparently died of a heart attack. He may have died of a heart attack anyway. Just may have died at home as opposed to jail. But either way.
I was wondering, how did he die so fast of COVID in there? But he might have had health problems, and I will take that into consideration. But you know what I do miss about Chris Daniel? I have never even seen the clerk. I used to see Chris Daniel down at the courthouse all the time. He was very accessible.
All the time. And I remember Chris Daniel stepped up during Harvey. And he
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I can reach out to her, but I know what she looks like because I got to look at the first page of the district clerk, but I don't think I've ever seen her around. So I'll send her a letter, tell her what's up.
I see that image in my head, man. It's the first thing I see when I get up because I'm checking the stupid clerk site and it's her, which is fine.
Marilyn Burgess or Chris Daniel?
Yeah,
Well, look, I'm not. I plead a fifth.
Show us your screen lock.
Don't you say anything.
Show us whose picture's on your lock screen on your phone.
Dustin, you either, man. Why you all a bunch of narcs? Hey, okay, so let's talk about the county clerk. She's out, right?
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, what happened there? She's in charge of the election, right?
She stepped down.
Marriage licenses.
Well, hey, hold on. Election, marriage license. I'm trying to figure this out here.
I'm trying to figure out what happened. Why'd she step down? I mean,
She said health reasons.
I thought she said health reasons.
Yeah,
I mean, that was her excuse, but that was the statement.
I also think that we should not discount the fact that Mark got elected HCCLA president, and then she stepped down. Causation equals correlation.
Coincidence?
We nominated like liaisons to judges and this and that and this and that, and I was like, I mean, Mark is gonna lead. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah.
Mark is gonna lead us. We have full support behind Mark and the new board. I'm super pumped.
I'm gonna go knock on her door and be like, "What's going on with? Let me see your medical records. I want to bring your medical records. What's going on?"
Look, we don't gotta do that.
Can you take one of the monkeys?
Uh,
I was hoping for monkeys at the banquet. You were talking about elephants. I wanted monkeys at the banquet.
I told you, I'm taking this serious.
So, Judge, it was the 50th anniversary of HCCLA. Tonight is the 50th anniversary of Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. Generally, we're at a banquet, partying, having a wonderful time, announcing winners. Mark would be on the stage.
I do know, to get 2 live adult tigers to show up is $5,685. I do know that, and I know where they're coming from.
Y'all elected him.
I cleared my credit card for 2 adult tigers.
I heard Carol Baskin can get them for cheaper, bro.
So Matt, all right, this is gonna make
They
your day.
better look under those septic tanks. That's all.
So I'm
saying.
having a birthday party this summer, and I was like, "Hey, do you have any cubs? Can I get some tiger cubs in my party?" And they're like, "We don't have any cubs. You might want to contact." And it was that dude that always wore affliction. They're like, "You don't want to deal with him." And I'm like, "I'm not dealing with that dude." but I didn't even get a price quote for the cubs. I did get a price quote for 2 adult tigers.
No, well, I'll talk to him. I'll tell him. I'm kidding. I don't know the guy. I don't know him. I don't know.
Hey, I have an update for you guys. The only reason I came on the show tonight was to talk about this jury stuff. We haven't talked about it. So
Okay.
Bring it on.
All right. So anyway, grand juries are meeting through August would be the normal new term. So what we're doing is we're bringing in grand juries. We're bringing in jurors to pick grand juries only on the 6th and 7th. Does that make sense? So we're
6th and 7th of what? Help me
July.
out. Okay.
Of July. And we're going to pick new grand jurors out of that pool that will start in August. But it is only that specific people we're sending out letters for. So we're going to pull people just to bring in new grand jurors, which will leave the pressure on my grand jury, for instance, who's going to be there for 6 months or for 6 months exactly. And so we'll start that new grand jury term, which I believe is the top of the old CJC. So the 174th to the 179th, I think. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so those judges will pick their own grand juries, and then we will seat those grand juries to start an August term. We are going to, because of, the big problem is, where do we take these people? We usually pull grand jurors about 100 people at a time, and then we voir dire generally the whole group of people. And then from that group, we wheedle them down, people who can't serve, it's a huge time commitment. And then we get people who are volunteering, we pull together a group of those people, and then we have certain rules that have to meet, a certain number of women, certain number of men, certain number of African Americans, certain number of whites, Hispanics, others. We have a whole bunch of rules that we have to follow, but we're going to do that. And that is the plan for August. That's for that August grand jury, but July 6th and 7th, we're going to bring those people over. Because of social distancing, the problem is the elevators. We cannot bring more than 2 people at a time. So we're going to do those over at the 1910 courthouse where there are stairs. The people who obviously have trouble with the stairs, we can take the elevator, but we'll be able to do voir dire there for those judges. So that is the immediate plan. We're in the process of, and I was hoping to get this to y'all tonight, but it didn't get to me in time, but we are going to send out. Oh, go ahead.
I'm glad you're bringing up the questionnaire is what you're about to talk about, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks.
So the judges are going to send a questionnaire out to, and we're going to send it to and I'll make sure y'all get it. HCLA gets it. We'll send it out to anyone who is taking felony appointments, and also to the district attorney's office. We're going to send out a questionnaire about everyone's feelings about when they want to start jury trials, when they feel safe doing jury trials, how they feel about court trials, how they feel about Zoom appearances. And we're going to kind of just send out a questionnaire to the stakeholders and get y'all's opinions about jury trials. I mean, if you're, Katie, I know you got a little one at home. If you got called for jury duty, you wouldn't be able to do it right now. There's no daycares open. There's no schools open. Same thing with Mark and Tally, and Justin. JV, I'm sure, is just dying to leave his 15 kids. But like, if you do have children and you're a single parent, you're screwed, right? Like, how do you do that? So all these questions, but we are going to reach out to everybody, and it's going to go out next week about have those lawyers come and tell us how they feel about when we should be starting jury trials.
Mark, it's 8:54. We got about 3 minutes. What do you think one of the greatest, not to say challenges, or maybe some of the things that you want to accomplish for your first day as president?
Hang on a second. One second.
We got 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes.
I know. Judge, the questionnaire, it's going to go to more than just the criminal attorneys who practice criminal work.
It's going to be sent out to all. The HBA is going to send it out. We're, as a criminal district court judge, I'm interested in what HCCLA has to say. I'm interested in the people who practice in my courts, what they have to say, and the prosecution has to say. So the easiest way for us to get that out is through HCCLA. I'm sorry, Katie. What'd you say, Katie? I still can't hear you.
What, Katie?
The PDO's office.
Okay.
They will get it as well.
I will tell one thing. I would rather wait 6 months for a jury trial, and I'm chomping at the bit for a jury trial, than do a jury trial via Zoom. I cannot do that. That will take away, as a defense attorney, that I can't do a jury trial via Zoom.
We need pulses in a courtroom.
Yeah.
I think the Sixth Amendment is at some point, like, I don't think
it can't be effective.
Yeah.
What I will say, I think JV mentioned earlier, and none of y'all jumped on it. He mentioned the NRG. Like, I will stand on that 50-yard line in Vordaer all fucking day. I'm just saying, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So if y'all want to have trials at NRG, I'm in.
Well, we're
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
try that.
Sorry,
We're
Dustin.
gonna try that with Arkham. We're
I'm
gonna
gonna be
try
using.
the
I'm gonna
Arkham
be using.
trial.
If they got a jumbotron, I'm gonna be using it.
And technically,
Your
it's
trials
the
are not gonna be on
stadium.
Jumbotron.
It's where the livestock show and rodeo was, so you don't have to be in the stadium with everybody around there. So, because
No, I want to be in the stadium.
We're gonna change the venue. Motion to change the venue.
I think you're gonna be in the
Is
cow
there no
poop.
one else?
Look, we got 2 minutes. Mark, last word, man. Mr. President, honor.
Yeah.
Ready.
no, I'm just happy. You know, honestly, the one thing I want to do for HCCLA, I want to bring everybody back together. We all got dispersed after Harvey. I don't care if you're 20. I don't care if you're 80. I don't care if you're red, white, purple, yellow. I don't care what ethnic, sex orientation. I want to bring our community back together. We all got dispersed after that. We're down to like 500 members. We need to be at 1,000. I want to bring that's my goal this entire year, bring everybody back together. We're all in this together.
Hey, can I give you a CJC update?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Hey, COVID's been horrible. It's affected so many people. It's affected businesses, people's lives and livelihoods. So many people we know have been sick. So I don't mean to say this lightly, but if there is a silver lining, the construction on the CJC has accelerated because of this, and we will be full capacity, or floors 4 through 19 will be completed June 5th.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So right
So-
into the hurricane season.
I'm bringing you back. We're bringing you back on June 6th and be like, Judge Warren said,
I'll be
do you
busy that day.
remember on this day at this time that you
That
said?
doesn't include the 20th floor. The 20th floor will have additional things. We're going to hopefully move those courts to the old family law building. But the CJC should be completely functional, absent COVID issues. It is ready to be moved back in June 5th or 6th.
Justin Harris, thank you so much for putting this together.
Thank you. Thank you,
Judge Warren,
JP.
Hey, thanks for having me, y'all.
Thank you.
Judge, thanks for being
Miss
here,
Katie
Mark.
Ferrell, thank you so much. Mr. President, why don't you tell us to see you next week? Lead us out.
You guys stay safe out there. Stay happy. Kiss your loved ones, and I'll see y'all soon. Call me for anything. Thank you guys all for having me.
Hey, cheers, y'all. Be safe.
Mark Prudhoe, run them credits.
Thank you, Mark.